my friends, most of them at the end of the day are skydiving, like they're off having like beers or dinner or whatever, and I'm in like my red light
Red light
therapy
therapy
bed
vest with your grounding
with my
sheets
grounding sheet, full
and
red
your
light
beetroot
therapy
juice
bed.
supplements. Just trying to hang in there.
Just mainlining ashwagandha, like give it to me. Just like a line of beetroot powder. Just give me all the stuff. They're all like raging, and I'm just like just pounding kombucha.
Line of beetroot powder
juice.
got me.
It's very good for the blood, everybody. Celery juice chaser. Turmeric, bring it. They're all doing shots, and I'm like, that's my life. So, but love it. So, should we just bring in the circle now?
Cut.
Cut.
Let's bring in the circle. We're getting carried away. Welcome to Spread Your Third Eye podcast. I am your host, Mia Wrights, and we have an amazing episode today with Georgia Jean.
Always amazing. I mean, not me, but
coming in with the always amazing circle of light. I don't know if you're always amazing as a human.
No, I'm just average, but they are phenom.
So we have a really exciting episode because there was a personal session that I had with the circle. And I asked right off the bat, hey, do you think that I can live to 120 because I promised my daughter that I would not die before her and we can die at the same time and she can live to 90 and I'll live to 120. And that's exactly what the circle of light said. They giggled and then they said 120, 130, 150. And I was like, really? And they followed up with, well, by the time that happens, which is going to be in like 70 years or whatever, the world is going to look very different. And you may not even want to be in a body, but you can still hang out with your daughter because the veil will be so thin by then. So I was like, my mind was really blown. And a couple of weeks later, I'm sitting scrolling on Instagram and I see this meme that says scientists are now saying that human beings might be able to live to 120, 130, 150. The same exact numbers that the circle of light gave me. And then they followed up in the caption with all this science saying that, they think that they're going to get people to live however hacking and stuff like that. So I was like, oh my God, right after my session, then I see this meme, my mind was blown. So I thought this was going to be kind of a fun episode to talk about what is going on with our human biology, our DNA upgrades, and also tie in kind of like, did we used to live 400 years old, like in the Bible days, how they would say, I don't know if it's Noah or whoever else, but they'd say this person lived to 250 years, this person lived to 400 years.
Right.
So I thought we could touch on that.
Old Testament stuff.
Yeah, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know. We can definitely ask the circle about I'm just the channel. I'm just the channel.
What do you think,
here.
Georgia?
Hey, don't put the hot spot on me. But so I was just sitting here laughing. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary series Grey Gardens. Oh my God! Because I think my idea of hell is like my mother and I living together. Like until I'm 90 and she's 120. I'm like, oh my! I'm like,
hell.
But this is great. It's a true story about this mother and daughter couple that lived together, and they were actually related to Jackie and Onassis, and they were sort of in the 50s or the 60s, and had come from a lot of money, but it had all, they had
Oh,
an
I saw
estate.
this on Netflix. I saw the previews of it.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
watch
And
it.
there's a movie with Drew Barrymore, Grey Garden. She plays the daughter Edie, and they're just completely mad living together in this house full of literally
They're hoarders.
Hoarders.
Yeah.
And there was actually nothing much in the house, where they hoarded the tin cans that they fed the cats, literally a pile from the ceiling to the floor, and like the cats and the raccoons. And then Edie was just sort of mad, and her mother was mad, crazier as well. And she was into her own kind of concept of fashion, though. She's like, I've pinned my skirt together. Mother doesn't like it very much, but the young gentleman from the town, and they're just completely mad. So when you're talking about you and your daughter growing old together, I'm just like,
Your
oh my
nightmare.
God.
That's hilarious.
My nightmare, just like being an insane spinster with my.
Well, they do have Oregon suicide in case that happens. If
Oh,
you need to kill
yeah.
yourself.
Like, trot me up to Oregon. I'll be ready to go. Dr. Kevorkian.
I'll sign you up if you go mad. I'll make sure to have I'll sign you up for
that's right.
suicide.
She's making outfits out of her,
Yeah, you're out of here.
also pieces of parachute or something. I've made this fabulous gown to wear tonight, I snipped up my parachute.
I promise you I'd go to you and say, it's time for you to die.
Time to go. Time out. Time to go. Like, mother, is that your mother? Anyhow, so I think we also want quality of life as well. Like, I think that's the other thing too.
I just made the promise just now, girl. I'm
Make
not
sure-
going to let you do that. I'll do that with my daughter. But
Yeah, you and your daughter, you'll be cute. I'm like, but it is quality of life as well. Like, what do we want to live longer? Do we want to live stronger?
yeah.
Actually,
I
like
don't want to be
something
120 fucking
Yeah.
bones.
Like,
Hell
if I'm
no.
a kick-ass, like,
Yeah,
Foxy
that's
Minx, 120
what I had in
I'll
mind.
be like, yeah,
I was
totally.
I thought that I saw this another thing just recently where this guy, scientist, researcher, I don't know, but he was getting interviewed, and he said that they believe that AI is going to give us technology soon to where within the next 5 years, I don't know, but it's like somewhat in the near future, that every year that we age, it'll be able to give us a year back. So they believe AI is it will help them create technology to learn to reduce the aging. And so I'm thinking in my head, after seeing that too, that, I think maybe I'll stop at like 45.
Right.
Yeah. So I was never thinking, I'm like, I'm not living to 120 like that.
Grandma.
Shriveled, can't walk. No thanks. I'll just die at 80. Sorry, daughter. Sorry, Nevaeh. I'm out.
Oh, I'm laughing about something that I probably shouldn't be laughing about. But actually, because I'm a skydiver, for those of you who don't know, because we actually haven't talked that much about it.
We should have a whole episode
And
on
I feel like
actually.
it feeds in a little bit for me into the concepts about aging, because I started much older than most of the people that I jump with, and it is a very physically intense activity. And so I've had to look at my own illusions around my age and what's possible, what I'm capable of at this age in this sport. But there was a lady who came to the drop zone, and she skydived Chicago, where I jump regularly, and she was 109. She broke the world record for being 109 and being the oldest person to do a tandem skydive. Yeah. Pretty wild. So I was there, and she was like on the walker out to the plane. Yep. And came in. But she, and I don't think it was connected, she actually died a week later. It was like she wanted to do this thing. Yeah. And then she was ready to go, though. She was definitely ready to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
She died a week later.
A week later, yeah. But it was like a bucket list thing.
Yeah.
Doris, I think her name was Doris. Yeah. Anyway, it's out there. Google it. Yeah. 109-year-old skydiver. So people it's already being pushed a lot. What is capable, what people look like in their 40s, 50s, 60s is very different from like what, our grandparents look like 40s, 50s, 60s and stuff like that.
I'm 40 now, and this is golden age when she's like, I'm 42. And
oh, I know the Golden Girls.
yeah, on one of the episodes, it was like circling around on reels. Like the girl was pouring a cup, and she's like, I'm the age of a Golden Girls right now.
Yeah.
But the 42-year-old then looked old AF.
Oh, yeah,
42,
yeah.
40
Well,
year olds
I'm
older.
54.
I know, and
So,
you're
yeah.
super youthful.
So I
With your
and
Vans and like, yeah,
Vans and
everything, skydiving.
real hair color. But yeah, no, but it's and I don't even talk about my age that much, except in the context of this.
Yeah.
I definitely don't look like my grandmother did at
Yeah.
54, and I'm definitely living a very different life
Yeah.
with a very different sense of possibility.
So it's
than
already
she was.
changing.
It's already changing, and I think there's logical reasons we can look at why that's happening. You know, we understand so much more about nutrition, we understand more about diet, or, you know, like how our body works, which is part of it. And I think the circle will talk about, they'll go more into that.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to, you know, say stuff that they wouldn't agree with. And they'll be like, well, she says that, and they said that. I'll just shut up about it. But it is a super fascinating. I think even the fact that I do this work with people, and we're doing a lot of healing work, or do a lot of work with people with chronic physical conditions, and the consciousness of the body has always been a big part of our work. And then the fact that I am driven to do something that is very physically taxing at this, you know, like, why wasn't I doing, I'm always like, why didn't I start this one at 25? Like, when I'm like, why am I doing this now? Where I'm like sitting on the plane, like hot flashes and stuff like that. That's like, you know, all the, you know, young hot skydivers, and I'm like, why now? Why did I decide skydiving was like the thing I should get into now? But for me, it's my kung fu, like it's my karate, like, you know, it's me pushing the edge of, and really having to go into the concept of body consciousness, because we do so much healing work with people. And what is, you know, like it's something that's being rewritten right now for this reason. So, but I think it's also about not just lifespan, but, as some people say, health span, like living, having an awesome life for longer.
I told you I'm done at 45 and I'm going to live to 120, but
yeah,
I'm staying 25.
but you're gonna look, this is it.
No, it's not but
Just as fabulous.
hurry
as
up,
ever.
AI, get it together.
Come on,
Let's
she'll
go.
be on Chat GPT every day. Did you figure it out yet? Did you figure it out? Have you figured it out?
Hurry it up.
What am I taking today? Tell me. My friends joke though, because I'm a believer in that part of what is this shift is obviously technologies are developing that are helping us. So my friends, you know, most of them at the end of the day are skydiving, like they're off having like beers or dinner or whatever, and I'm in like my red light therapy bed
vest with your grounding sheets.
with my grounding sheet
and your beetroot juice supplements. Just try to hang in there.
Just mainlining ashwagandha, like, give it to me. Just like a line of beetroot powder. Just give me all the stuff. They're all like raging, and I'm just like just pounding kombucha.
Line of beetroot powder got me.
It's very good for the blood, everybody. Celery juice chaser, turmeric, bring it. They're all doing shots, and, you know, I'm like, that's my life. So, but love it. So should we just bring in the circle now?
Cut. Just bring in the circle. We're getting carried away. We're storing beetroot powder. Go ahead.
I don't really
Bring the
snort
circle.
it.
I'm kidding.
The old comedian
we know.
in me,
We
no.
know. She used to be a comedian.
Yeah,
I'm a down low comedian.
I think you're pretty out there. All right,
let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Yes, indeed, dear ones, we are here, and we are most delighted to make connection with you here on another magnificent day in your earth plane. And shall we remind our dear friends that even as you are watching this, yes, we're going to be speaking words, but we're also going to be delivering, activating frequencies, downloading new intelligence that can assist your biological system to rewrite its programs around its concept of aging. And what we like to talk about more is the illusion of decay and entropy in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the primary illusions of the human framework is this illusion of decay and entropy in the body, which is a program that is imprinted in the functioning of the physical body, but it's also connected to the reincarnation cycles. So as consciousness, when you incarnate, looking at your illusion of time and space for a long time, the possibilities that could be experienced in a lifetime weren't that various. And so consciousness didn't need to stay incarnated very long to experience what was available as a creative experience.
Because
and then,
you couldn't fly, you couldn't really drive far. You
that's
just
right.
had horses, so
maybe
it was
maybe a
limited.
horse, yes,
Maybe a horse.
yeah. So and if you had that, but yes, how far you could walk in a day or two or three or whatever, that was really reality, and there wasn't much developed or evolved. And now, of course, you can get on a plane, you can really reinvent yourself. You can reinvent yourself with makeup, fashion, plane trips. You can explore different aspects of yourselves. You can have multiple careers in a lifetime. There's many more reasons why you might as well stay incarnated, but be open to change at specific points in your life, and in order to keep pulling in the force of your consciousness, which is ultimately always interested in growth and experience. So one way to, quote unquote, stay young is to embrace change and try different things and keep pulling your life force in for those new creative experiences.
Wow, that's
Yes.
interesting.
Yes. Because that's the name of the creative game of incarnation.
It's too for growth and expansion.
Yes.
Where is human beings headed in biohacking with living longer? And did humans at one time on Earth, before Christ, during Christ, Atlantis, Lemurian, did they live thousands of years, 400 years?
So the earth itself, as a creative playing field, has been around a long time, much longer than the human experience as you know it to be now. And this is where there are understandings of other cultures or even formats almost of the human experience that were here before this current one was.
Okay.
And that's where you hear about Atlantis or this sort of thing. And in those creative explorations, different storylines were played out. And many stories have been played out here on Earth where lifespan was shortened or extended. And you are yourselves going into a more extended format of lifespan now than you've had before because of all the new potentialities that have opened up.
Was the Lemurians and the Atlanteans, were they human?
One moment, just so we can
Okay.
get this clarification for the channel. Lemurian culture, as you understand it, is a direct emanation from the earth consciousness, a embodiment of earth consciousness that was able to separate, create a form in separation from the earth consciousness and exist. Everything that is incarnates on earth has earth consciousness in it in different degrees
Okay.
because it has to exist here on earth, because your world is interdependent in that sense. And this is why many dear ones who are looking forward to, for example, galactic energies to show up, it's a challenge because if they don't have earth consciousness, it's hard to exist here.
Okay.
Yes, and this is something that's...
I just had a little disappointment in my eyes. That's all. Like, oh, okay.
Now, what we will say to you, though, dear ones, is because many of you who are incarnated are earth consciousness, and you are also beyond earth consciousness. So even the human creation experience, it's earth consciousness plus other consciousness. That's how it is different. So consciousness is sort of, it's like, we use that example of H2O. It is something that changes form, shape, density, expansiveness. And it can also, if you add different flavors into it, it could change color, flavor, etc. And so anything that's really existing here is going to have some earth consciousness to exist here, really materially, successfully. And we'll get back to your alien friends in a moment here. So human consciousness is earth consciousness plus some. Lemurian consciousness was one of the first forms that came out of earth consciousness that could separate from the body of the earth and create its own life form while carrying a lot of the frequency of the earth consciousness. This is why a lot of what you know of as to be your indigenous tribes, this sort of thing, still carry a lot of Lemurian energy and have strong connections to the earth, are very much the guardians, the humanoid guardians of the earth, because they're very in tune with earth because they are earth.
Like the American Indians and the Indian tribes in the Amazon
yes,
and stuff?
in the Amazon and in
all over the world,
Australia, or many indigenous communities emanate from that original seed of life into human form, and they carry a lot more clear memory of that existence and that intelligence that is unified with the earth, which is why they are wonderful caretakers and listeners to the earth itself. Yes. Atlantean energy, and we want to say something about that as well, Lemurian energy, because Earth actually is a multidimensional playing field. A lot of you will look at this and go, we're here on Earth living a 3D reality. It's 3D. No, that's the human program.
Because even dolphins don't live 3D.
Indeed, yes. There's a lot of life forms here that are not operating under the same premises as the human form is operating under. So just to be clear, this is why an earth-based consciousness like the Lemurians and how it has extended into the human race can still have a lot of multidimensional capability, because they're actually more connected to the multidimensional nature of the earth itself. The Atlantean energy,
I'm sorry, hold on. Was the Lemurians able to live like longer lives? Were they 400,000 years old? Were they different species could live that long? And I asked because of the Bible days, you know, they would say that they lived 400 years, 200 years, stuff like that.
Certainly. So, because the Earth consciousness itself also doesn't, even though you see cycles of decay and entropy in the seasons and ways that would reflect the decay and entropy cycle of the human body, yes, it doesn't operate under the same time frames.
Oh, okay.
So Lemurian consciousness coming into a physical form and into a sort of individuated form, into a consciousness that might look more humanoid. Really, it Lemurian energy doesn't really look as human as you would imagine it looks, because whenever humans look outside of themselves at the world, and they think of an individual, they always project some of their idea of characterization onto it. So Lemurian energy is, as a humanoid form, is more of a multidimensional being than the current
So
human
you can't
consciousness.
compare apples to oranges right now.
Sort of,
Yeah.
yes. So a life form can shift when you're more multidimensional. You have a capacity to shift form without that structure of quote unquote living and dying, incarnating and living, incarnating, living, dying, reincarnating. It's more of a fluid. So a consciousness can exist in form, changing form multiple times for a very long time. And some of the spiritual masters and the people that you understand to be ascended masters that incarnated, who have defied the typical lifespan, have also had this capacity because they're able to tap into certain streams of consciousness, giving them the programs of longevity, but also greater multidimensionality through which that could be explored.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. So Atlantean culture, by difference, and just give us a moment here. So a lot has been said about the Atlantean culture in order to grasp its complexity as an exploration. So we won't go too deeply here into it.
Okay.
But to say that Atlantean culture as a humanoid exploration had more galactic energy and was overall a much more experimental experience. It integrated aspects of biology as you would understand it, because again we would say that Atlantean culture and the biology of the Atlanteans is not the same as your standard human biology, although there are always hybridizations that happen between all of these. So, and this is why you have sort of different originating, almost like primal races that create the human experience. It had a blended biology that was also physical and multidimensional. Did not exist in a singular linear time-space reality as the 3D construct exists in. It's much more flexible as well. Was highly experimental and did help to bring in essences of consciousness through the multidimensional gateways that Atlantean culture opened up. It did allow essences that have evolved in other playing fields that have informed some of your some of the of course the marine life and things like that that you think of as just being part of the Earth consciousness. So there's definite differences with Lemurian, Atlantean, and sort of quote unquote straight up human culture.
What about the humans in the Bible? Were they a human? That I'm talking about, living to 200, 400, however. I don't remember the exact, but.
We would say a lot of the Bible it's sort of like a book of unconscious memory, meaning that and when we talk about unconscious memory, we're talking about this sort of collective history of everything that's happened here on this planet as creative essence. And specifically more what you would consider the Old Testament, there is a lot of reference to memory from prior to the human creative experience. They could be referring to these sort of humanoid experiences that had lived longer and lived differently and went through collapses in their time of sort of dominating the theater. What we want you to understand right now about the shift in consciousness, again, we're talking about Earth is a theater, and people and beings and consciousness gets to come and play a show here for a while, and then it changes. And another consciousness collective comes in and inhabits the theater.
Which is happening right now with higher dimensional beings from other galactic areas.
So what is happening now is that you are going through more hybridization. Yes. So what you see as the human experience now is not what it's going to be in your Earth years 200 years, because you played out a lot of the storylines that particular genesis of creation in terms of the human evolution could play out with and maintain consciousness's interest.
Okay.
How many wars? How many?
I'm bored with this. Okay,
yes.
we're moving.
So, and you are consciousness.
Yeah.
It isn't like consciousness is as many people would think is like this God figure going, you're all terrible, it's time to blow you up now. It is literally more that as a collective you're like, all right, we've got this one.
Okay.
We've done it. How can we mix this up now? So in the past, there was more of an experience where one consciousness would inhabit the Earth, play its storylines out, and then sort of uncreate that storyline, and the next show would roll into town. And you would look at these historical shifts. Oh, something came in to end everything. So the dinosaurs and the idea of the meteor. But really, consciousness itself makes that choice to start to uncreate that life form. And then an event happens to reflect that uncreation. Because there's always frequency first, manifestation second. So you, as consciousness, already decided before many of you incarnated, if you were going to look at this linearly, that you would incarnate and there would be this shift in consciousness and you would remain active and alive through the shift rather than everything getting wiped out, as may have happened in the past, and something new beginning.
I'm laughing because it's like, who's going to be writing these scrolls and adding it to the Bible or putting it in a...
Now you have a bunch of podcasts out there.
Putting it in a crystal skull. Okay,
Yes,
who's writing the scrolls for this one, guys?
Well,
Go down in history for the next thousands of years.
So, and here's what's really interesting, because you have this technology now that can way more accurately encapsulate exactly what has been going on. specifically this generation, because even 200 years ago, it was scrolls.
Yeah. Oh,
Hear
okay.
ye, hear
Yeah.
ye, the king has died.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and there was a lot of lost communication in how information transported across. Now you have Instagram.
Here's our scroll right here.
And you have Instagram.
Yeah.
And as long as technology can maintain those reservoirs, but you have photos, you have film,
Yeah.
you have all of these things that have actually encapsulated this period of time much more specifically.
Like the pyramids and Stonehenge and things like that capsulated, where we were like, I don't even know how they did it.
Yes.
But that capsulated that time where obviously it was we had different technologies.
Different creative forces
Yeah.
generating things in different ways in different times, in different ways that energy has been accessed to build, create, generate. Yes. And you've had minor shifts in consciousness along the way.
Yeah.
Because obviously, even let's say 80 years ago, before this current shift really started activating in the way that you see it now, with so many people channeling that this is going on, so many people aware that there's a shift, the world looking pretty nutty compared to how it is actively understood a lot more that something very foundational is happening. Whereas 80 years ago, people were just continuing to like operate on a sort of biological autopilot that is evolving, but evolving at slower rates than now, because it's been evolving with the same potentiality of the DNA that was part of the human experience from those very originating codes coming in that sort of births the human experience. So you've played a lot of that out. Now, still, you would say people from 80 years ago or 200 years ago are still vastly evolved from that early incarnation that we spoke about before, whereas but we're very savage kind of survival, but there's plenty of that energy still in the experience as it's been refining. And at different stages, for example, the concept of the Christ consciousness came in, which was not just as you understand in the New Testament, the idea of this one character, but an energy frequency that came in and evolved even further the idea of love. Love had been evolved as a feeling between humans, but it was much more connected to pure survival. So you only loved your family. The love is the glue that kept your tribal groups together. You feel this when you're separate from them. It hurts. When you're around, you feel love. The chemicals are produced. You want more of that. You stick together. You survive. When the Christ consciousness energy came in as a part of an evolutionary shift, it was to introduce love of anybody. Without needing it to be about survival.
Yeah.
You really, until you have an evolutionary shift in the way you process the information of your life, including from a foundational biological level, for example, is a friend or a foe, that would be a processing at a biological level. Am I comfortable around this person, or do I want to go into fight or flight? But then the next layer being the more psychological level. Do I like this person? Is it, do we share things? Do we have affinity?
Yeah.
Are we sort of programmed the same way that we can cohabitate or co-create in a space together? That's getting more psychological on top of the survival underneath. When you have a shift, you fundamentally experience life differently. So even though there's aspects of your brain and your biology that remain consistent from the very, very beginning stages of how you became humans, essentially, you have still evolved. and you still do not, you fundamentally experience reality quite differently from those. How you process information, how your brain puts it together, how you see and experience things, it's quite different. So, and we always want to help you to understand why perception and understanding that people have different perceptions of reality is a really important part of how you can kind of get along together, because you are fundamentally processing life quite differently. And if you can get that, you can actually groove in together better. So, but
I'll take note of that, actually.
Yes,
That's important to
and
remember.
this is why we encourage people to be open-minded. It isn't what people think, it's why they think the way they think a lot of the times. And if you can understand why, it will dissolve some of that separation that you feel as a collective trying to work together. And you want to work together, especially if you want to live longer, because you don't want to keep amplifying the suffering-based aspects of your consciousness and live longer, suffering for longer together.
So, in 7 years from now, how old am I? 40. So that's 110.
Indeed.
Can I live to 110 as if I stayed at 45? Actually, let's just, raise the bar a little.
Yes.
28 with 16-year-old skin without the acne.
Well, here's the question. Do you want to be 28 again?
No, I just want the body. I don't want vitality in my body.
You want vitality.
I don't want to shrivel up like a prune, have broken hips. I want that vitality,
Yes.
but I want to live to 120 if I want.
Yes.
Okay, you mentioned before I have creative choice.
You have creative choice.
So what's the technology looking like in 70 years? And is that possible?
Indeed. All right. So one thing we'll say here about this is creative consciousness doesn't want to explore the same thing. So if you hang on to your idea of what you believe to be the best, the safest, best choice, it's not actually going to be relevant at that moment in time. So we understand why you want to, when you think about yourself in your peak vitality, your mind says, I want to look like this or be like this when I'm that age. But we say, why? It might not even be relevant to what's going on at that age.
But I just don't want to be suffering.
You don't want to be suffering. And that's a really wonderful, that if you can focus more on that and not necessarily
the vein part.
well, it's more that if you are consciousness ever evolving, it's not that there's anything wrong to want to express in beauty, strength, vitality, because consciousness has no judgment on that. But when you have meanings that are making you attached to that being the way, you're actually restricting consciousness's capacity to flow through you and keep expressing in new and creative ways that may be even more magnificent than the version of you at 28. So what is vitality? Free flowing, powerful energy moving through your system, being well embedded into the biological system. So this is why we sort of say one of the hacks around not aging is to care less about the meanings of aging and be more open and embodying consciousness coming in.
Okay.
Now, your natural drivers towards being healthy support a biological system that can hold higher and more rapidly evolving frequencies in that actual biological system. So what we mean by that is, if you think of yourself, understand yourself as a current of energy coming through a biological system, you want to kind of take care of the wires that you're channeling that through. You want to support the biological framework so it can hold higher frequencies come in, the kinds of higher frequencies that are ultimately going to help to rewrite those biological templates that generate the body itself.
So take your turmeric, your ashwagandha, your
Get in the red light bed and mainline
Yeah.
yes, as Georgia was saying. You want to look after your biological system. It
Okay.
makes sense. Any system that you're using, if you want it to be effective, you want to look after it. Now, you don't have to be an absolute perfectionist
Yeah.
about this because even if you're having psychological stress about being perfect, you're probably actually putting more stress on your
Yeah.
system than if you're just saying, I love my body, I nurture my body, I take care of my body, I love everything that my body can do, I love being in a body,
Yeah.
I love being in whatever body I'm in.
Okay.
Now you're an open system.
Okay.
If you're always saying my body isn't good enough, my body isn't perfect enough, my body is not acceptable enough, you're actually closing your system down.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yes, dear ones. So this is why we always work more with love and acceptance than picking and perfecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what you want is an open system. And the psychological processing that you do that allows you to really organically feel that way about your body is what's going to turn your body into an open system that can embed the new codes and embed you in a sort of a high, quote unquote, a higher vibration, but really it's a new bandwidth of creative experience where the body is not operating under the same programs of decay and entropy that it has been, because on that new bandwidth of creation, there's more that you actually want to experience. You don't actually want to have to go through childhood again because you can keep experiencing new things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So don't resist the body that you have is really one of these primary things. But again, why you resist it is also understandable because it is coming from imprints that you're also wanting to change.
Yeah.
And that's why you feel strongly about certain things now that you may not have felt so strongly about before. That is why this whole concept of appearance, of Instagram, what is it doing to all of your psyches to always see these concepts of ideals? Well, on the one hand, it can be making you resist the body that you're in. But on the other hand, it may be helping you to become conscious of the deep biological imprints and programs that you have that are actually making you resist the body and therefore the amount of force that can come through the body.
So when you compare yourself to somebody online and think I'm not good enough, that's actually your calling card as to, hey, see, you need to go in and
Yes, if you
do some healing on that.
Yes, and look at those feelings.
Yeah.
Because there is a reason why there is this sort of mass projection on you right now. Again, 100 years ago, there might be a portrait of a fine young lady that people would say, what a gracious woman she was. But you weren't bombarded with imagery of a physical type that is, quote unquote, superior to how you're feeling. It wasn't part of the creative game because you weren't actively working on rewiring the biological system as you are now as a collective.
So it's not that everything's happening in perfection timing for a reason.
In its own way, it is. But it's what you do with that gives you the opportunity to really get with the expansion and the potentialities that are happening, or contract back from it and feel more disempowered. And so we always want to help you understand that you always have options here with how consciousness is presenting itself to you. Because if you can work with that imagery and discover where your belief structures are creating resistance to you being in your most vital state. Whatever your mind is saying is the most vital state there is right now, it's going to show you where you have resistance to that. And we would harvest the energy from that resistance. After a while, you won't care as much about the specifics about how you look, because the lack of resistance in your framework is going to be bringing in the vitality, your pure consciousness flooding your body.
So it's a paradox in a way.
It is a paradox in a way.
Yeah.
It's the tricky part of this sort of evolutionary shift, is that you have to go through this kind of threshold
Yeah.
resistance where you're harvesting this
Yeah.
energy from all this resistant state that you
Okay.
feel in order to have the breakthrough.
Yeah.
But what you perceive as being ideal now, it's probably not even going to be relevant in 70 years, because your consciousness will have evolved to a new framework that has a new set of, we don't even want to say standards, because standards are very much part of the hierarchical nature of the survival system, but we would say parameters through which you are exploring your creativity. And
All
it's
right.
going to be more fun.
So your fake boobs and your fake butt might not be relevant.
It may not carry the cultural significance that it is carrying
I like
right
the joke,
now.
guys. I like the
Yes.
joke. I
But
hope I
it's true.
entertain
There's
you.
people who feel a lot of pressure, and people are
Yeah.
struggling with their sense of their body identity now because it's going through
Yeah.
a shift. And this is where you can really embrace some of that compassion. You're all going through it in many ways because it's happening in the collective. And also, the body is a creative experience too. So some people are saying, all right, well, I'm just going to create this experience this way through that. There's no judgment. The more psychologically clear you are, the more your creative font is open, and you can be or do or
Yeah.
express yourself however you want
Yeah.
to. It is always the mind that's creating all the problems about it for anyone and projecting it
Yeah.
upon each
So
other.
people can have their fake whatever.
Yes, you can do whatever you want.
And by the way, I'm not judging because I'm part of that. I mean, in a way.
and it's only when you see it as a mirror.
Yeah.
And again, you can look at your reactions, you can work with it, your own reactions. People want to control other people because it helps them to control their own feelings. But if you really can go into your own emotional reservoirs and work with it, you will ultimately benefit from the liberation of that. Now, we're not saying just be mean to everybody. What we're saying is that be with how you are responding.
Yeah.
And that's how you access your power. We're not saying that it is understandable that you have confusing interactions with each other about all sorts of things, because your meaning of life really is changing. And a lot of the struggle is the resistance to that change itself. But you as creative consciousness, again, you don't want 150 years of the same old.
Okay.
So you embrace that change is happening. You allow it to happen. Many of you experience fear when you see change because the egoic framework wants to keep things the same and familiar, but that will always create limitation for the length and the amount of time and how you live here on Earth.
Wow. Interesting.
Yes.
So it's going to look very different in 70 years.
Yes. Look already how different it is
Yeah.
70 years ago.
But this is like an
But
exponential.
this will be an exponential shift.
Yeah.
Because what is happening is that you are hybridizing consciousness that has evolved elsewhere. Many of you, most of you who would be watching this, that you would be resonating with this right now, are hybrid consciousnesses.
From Galactic.
Yes,
Or-
galactic, more consciousness that has evolved in other realms, dimensions, planetary experiences, theaters. Now, getting back to your question, or I'm feeling a bit sad with the idea that your galactic friends
Might not show up.
might not show up. So let's talk about this, because what makes a creative platform something that can be shared with consciousness, a new consciousness, is, first of all, dear ones, co-creation is the name. And a lot of the struggle that you're going through with fear of other, fear of uh, uh, people of different cultures, people of is the breakdown of the mind's desire to separate and keep you all in limitation. So face your fears about the others, dear ones, because the other humans are a lot more similar to you now than the other consciousnesses that are actually embodying. And why you're even struggling with how some of your younger people are expressing themselves is because they're already more galactic than even you are.
Wow.
Yes, they're already starting to embody with much more blended consciousnesses. They're already not operating on the same system that you are because they're the next generation.
Wow.
And if you want your if you want a more saturated embodiment of galactic consciousness to show up here on Earth, first, more of it as an intelligence has to embody here with you on the planet.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it's going to show up and be completely unfamiliar, and your basic human programming will destroy it immediately
Yeah.
or be threatened by it. That's why it's not happening.
I was going to say they obviously know if we're ready or not to do that, and that's why they haven't.
You would act out as you do with...
Yeah. Not me.
Not you, dear
but
one.
certainly
but the human collective.
There's
There's
a
people.
good majority would be like bombing, atomic bombing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to happen until there's already in the younger dear ones so much more acceptance of multidimensionality.
Yeah.
Of feeling that they don't fully belong here and that desire and wanting to connect. So they're paving the way. And if you as older dear ones who are blended energy can be part of the world that says, hey, it's okay that young ones are different because we are evolving as a human consciousness.
Wow.
You've got to let go
Cool.
of the old cookie cutter because you've played out that.
We're old school guys.
Old school. New school, old school.
Yeah, I'm a hybrid.
Everybody who's watching this is probably hybrid energy.
Yeah.
Yes. And more waves are going to come in. So that is going to change. Now, here's the interesting idea about technology that we will share with you. Because, again, we want you to understand it's always frequency first, manifestation second. Frequency comes in. So already, as consciousness, you decided we want to evolve. How do we do that? You hybridize your energy by bringing in streams that have evolved elsewhere, not just consciousness that has always been human. That's just how it works. It's like making a cocktail. Nobody's invading anybody. As a collective, you said, let's mix it up here.
Okay.
Let's go Cirque du Soleil instead of Shakespearean murder, mystery, etc. So you've already decided as a collective to go Cirque du Soleil. So no one's showing up to invade. No one's showing up to mess things up, but it is going to change.
Okay.
So, but frequency first. People incarnate with more of the frequency that's evolved elsewhere. This is why you have your more galactic hybrid children now coming in, or the first old school, new school. Old school, new school. Then you're going to have the new school, new school.
Okay.
As you have the intention and the understanding on some level that you're not going to age in the same way that you have, because that's part of the new school,
Okay.
there's a lot more that can creatively happen. It's going to be more fun and
Woo-hoo,
less
5D.
resistant. 5D, you've got more unified field. You've got less of that aggressive survival system, because it isn't because you're going to be there like puppy dogs to the slaughter. You're just literally not playing the survival game anymore.
Whew.
You don't feel under threat all the time because survival isn't the name of the game. Cirque du Soleil is not survival. It's creativity. It's exploration. It's newness. Yes.
Feeling it.
You feel it.
Yeah.
And so these frequencies come in first. Now, Technology, because you're also living in a period of time where technology, A, has given you the ability to even understand what DNA is, the ability to even understand genetics, the ability to even see what is inside this human framework somewhat to a degree that you can understand how other things would influence it. And technology is a mirror. It is the physicalization of a frequency that's already embodying. So now technology is helping you. So for a period of time, yes, you may have more technologies that help you live better, longer, stronger. You understand more about foods, how to bring forward greater cellular functioning. Don't resist this aspect because it's giving you what you need as the hybrid generations to rewrite biological codes that have been going on for a long time, as well as the downloads coming in. But you're the generation going through the actual biological shift.
Yeah.
You're the ones who actually incarnated with the 3D biology and energetic system, chakra system, all of these things that we help you with, and are hybridizing it through with, it was a hybrid 3D 5D and now you're moving it into like the 5D, so you're changing a lot of stuff on this core level. You're the generation for the shift. When the shift happens, a lot of the stuff that you need to get through the shift, again, it won't be as relevant as it is, because that new programmed body intelligence will be operating more fully on that level.
Well, we'll wind up the episode here, but I just want to ask one more question.
Indeed.
When is the shift happening?
The shift is happening right now,
well,
dear
okay,
ones.
I know, but it's like
You are very desirous of getting to the big expansion.
Yes, I am. I put in the work, Georgia.
Here you are, dear one, sitting with a multidimensional being in your living room. But we love your enthusiasm for it, because the almost like it's still not enough is helping to propel it forward. Because your rockets of desires are saying, give me more, give me more, give me more.
Yeah.
And that's opening up this gateway that everybody who's watching it is getting to experience it. So we love your enthusiasm to get there.
Yeah.
Because it does this. But you are also operating through the shift itself. And don't let your impatience make so much resistance that you move out of the very important place
Relax.
where all the new frequencies, technologies, innovations, everything arrives when?
In the now moment.
In the now moment.
Okay.
So if you are resisting so deeply where you are right now in this point in time, in this shift, you're actually slowing that process down.
Okay.
So receive what's coming up. You are gaining insights, information, awarenesses, and it is because you are already, you embodied vibrationally with a lot of these truths within you. And many of you have struggled with this, wow, I just feel like it should be different, because a lot of you are holding new consciousness energy that is different from what has been. And that's created a lot of discomfort as you're moving out of the old framework. You're like, oh, just can't wait to get past the old sort of 3D imprint.
Yeah.
So we get it. It's an uncomfortable time, but it's also a very exciting time.
Yeah.
Because if you just come into your hearts, and Georgia had started talking about this, if you've watched the other episode where we helped to explain about this sort of biological origin of the human race and the masculine and feminine energy dynamic. The masculine energy as an originator of how you survived ground level, competitive energy, winner takes all, kill off that which isn't strong enough in order to make the actual framework survive its initial formation into the physical body. The feminine energy then refined the creative experience and expanded it and took it beyond a pure primal driver. Right now, what we're trying to share with you as well, dear ones, is you cannot enact the shift that you're seeking from the masculine energy. Because the masculine energy is strategic, mental, and wants to fix what is. It is not receptive. It doesn't allow the new codes of creation to come in to embody in order for a new consciousness to be birthed. You actually need the receptive feminine energy, the surrender, the ability to let go of the control of the mind and allow new consciousness to come in. And a lot of the times, what will be projected on this, that it's a weakness, will die if that happens. And yes, you will. Your old version will die. But that is how the new version is born. So you need this feminine, it's just receiving. It's not about gender. It's not about this, that, or the other. It's the capacity to surrender the desire to fix it from the current state that you're in, or to strategize, or to somehow manipulate what is to survive, which is more of the masculine framework. It is the surrendering and going, we're moving beyond it. We're allowed to let go of it. New consciousness will enter the receptive vesicle and rebirth a new human creative experience. And it's one that you all intended would happen when you incarnated, but you're having a lot of biological resistance, which is why there's all the conflict and the polarity and the struggle right now, because that is the flare-up of the old system fighting the new transition coming through.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, and that other episode is mind-blowing as well.
Indeed.
The divine feminine.
Yes.
And the history and
the history of
what's
humanity
happening to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a very
the energy, not the women, the divine feminine energy,
which is the receptive, and not trying to control, feeling into it, allowing it, receiving it, not so much of that protecting, defending against it. It's allowing it to come in, and it's allowing evolution to take you into a new realm. And very often when a more feminine energy was predominant in this receptivity, it did actually allow for what many dear ones would say were true golden ages that you've had in the advancement of human consciousness, because there's a great flourishing that happens with receiving more rather than resisting more.
Well, let's end it here. Can you tell the audience how to receive the divine energy?
Receive, soften your bodies, relax. If you want to start to really work with this idea of rewriting those programs of decay and entropy in the body, you really do want to embody more of your consciousness. You really want to move into your body. A lot of spirituality might say, hey, ignore your body, get out of your body and connect to the non-physical. But this is actually a system of resistance because it doesn't allow that broader consciousness to move in to embody and actually generate a new reality here. So a lot of our starseedy friends want to go out and connect with that galactic orange energy. You're here to bring it in, because the more you bring it in, final thought, getting back to that technologies, the more, if you were going to have a more saturated version of a galactic energy come here, you would need to have energetic frameworks set up that could support their life forms first. And that would take more of the young hybrid energies to actually create those technologies. We just wanted to finish off that transmission.
Yeah.
Those energies
really
will be able to exist here when technologies can support that, and that comes with the younger energies. So allow them to be what they are and do their thing. You do you, boo. But relax and receive, and also receive yourself. Sometimes part of receiving more of consciousness is to receive where you have embedded in your being old suppressed programs, memories, emotions. That's why so many of you are doing healing, allowing old stuff to surface so it can kind of come up and get out of your system, and you'll become an open system to receive more of the new code. So you're really this, again, this generation that we adore so very much, who are recycling old energy, purifying the system, being the first ones who are carrying deeper embodiments of the new consciousness energy that sometimes is different from the old human biology, which is why many people struggle with things like inflammation and chronic illnesses, because there's resistance between the systems. So the more you can relax and receive, purify, detoxify, logically it's going to make you healthier, but really what you're doing is you're setting your system to receive these new frequencies and to live through it. And yes, it's going to be very different in 100 years from now.
And just to leave it at that, living in the moment, receiving your feeling, receiving what's in your body, going in, receiving your actual manifestation that is around you, helps me relax.
Yes.
And also helps me go into my body, because I'll feel buzzing, tension, anxiety, and that helps, again, kind of just move that stuff.
Yes, coming into your now moment. And Georgia has the gift bag too, the Path to Mastery gift bag. Many very useful tools in that if people really want to get with the program and the process of what's going on.
Yeah.
She's made that very available for nothing. You can receive it, start to work with all the different exercises she's put in there, because it's going to help you go through the biological adaptation, which is a big part. Many people don't necessarily understand that this shift, yes, it's energetic, it's spiritual, it's multidimensional, but it's very much biological, and you have to bring your biology with you.
CircleEvolution.com. It's in the caption. And thank you so much.
Indeed, dear ones. We adore you all so very much. Until we're meeting in this way or some other way, we love you very much. And for now, we'll say goodbye, dear ones. Goodbye.
Gotta love the circle. Gotta love Georgia.
Pretty cool. I hope that's helpful.
Stop resisting the anti-aging.
Stop. Yeah.
Just embrace that.
Man, I've done a lot of work just with skydiving and stuff, just being like, I'm so old, cry, get it out. And then the body opens up again, you know, like, and I'll really, a few things you brought up, I will really actively work with, I did a lot of work with looking at those, you know, images of other people and working through my psychological projections on it and integrating with it and then downloading consciousnesses from different archetypes. Even as a skydiver, when I get to, because skydiving's so weird that we get to fly with some, like, just a super average person like me can train with like the world champions.
That's cool.
And
you're not average. She's like pretty much a semi-pro.
Well, I'm sure compared to obviously a lot of people who've never
compared to everybody else, she's not average.
Yeah,
just...
but you know, but I think I'm better at it than my, what you would say, logical innate abilities would be, because I don't come from a highly coordinated background or an athletic. Wasn't a gymnast or anything. Because I do a lot of these kind of multi-dimensional, like, consciousness transfers, just train. I'm working it physically, I'm training, but I also sit with those people who are the embodiments of where I want to go and just kind of meditate with their energy and receive, because they are the embodiments of what I'm trying to download.
Yeah, that's
become.
Amazing. Yeah.
So many tips to doing that.
Yeah. And if you want to find out more workshops, you have the university.
I've got the university. A lot of these concepts we're touching. I mean, there's so much. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to actually talk and for them to channel and really lay some of these concepts out, because we're not soundbite channeling. We're not like, think positive and everything's going to be okay. It's very much helping people to understand this whole foundation of how reality is generated and what we're doing here right now, and this shift and how to get there and how to get there more gracefully and enjoy it more.
And I'll tell you, I've been working with the Circle of Light in Georgia for a while now, and they've totally healed me physically on just like so much proof in the pudding for me in my life that I just have shift after shift after shift after shift.
Yeah.
It just is mind blowing. So they have all these concepts and stuff like that, but then they can actually help your physical body, help your psychological body, help your emotional states. It's just like, it blows my mind on the power that they help empower you by love and accepting, but it works. That's why I said, this is like my life's mission to work with her.
I love actually what they were saying about the loving your enthusiasm, because it actually makes me think that it works so really well with you because your energy is so right there with it that you just get that bit of information or those tweaks, and it plays through your system. And again, it's that part of your impatience, because you're like, it should be like this already.
Let's go.
But your consciousness is already like really with it in terms of where we're going. And I'm sure a lot of the people who are drawn to this are as well. And we're here to serve. Yeah,
we love you all. And if you want to come and interview the Circle of Light with me, you can fill out the form below, or you can go to my website, spreadyourthirdeye.com, and fill out the form. There's a button on there.
Yeah.
And so maybe we'll just see you in the studio next, and you can ask the Circle of Light any questions about the world, whatever.
Everything. The Google of consciousness. Like I say, just sit here and type it in, and I'll I like to say it's my direct line to heaven. Like, what dimension are you calling from this time? Are you 1 degree from source? Are you in the 7th dimension? Mia, we have a call for you from the 7th dimension. Can you take that right now?
I need the 12th.
You're out for lunch? Oh, only the 12th dimension. All right, we'll let you know. You're holding all calls unless it's the 12th dimension? All right, got it. I'm sorry, 7th dimension. She's not in right now.
Sorry. I mean, quite literally, I feel like I have a direct line to heaven, all consciousness. Like, this is like major life-changing, world-changing, personal changing. She's like everything.
Oh,
love you.
Love you.
Love you all.
Love you all.